I tell myself that she doesn't invite me because there isn't any space. But then one day, I notice there's an empty seat at the very end of the table. I hold my breath when I see Sarah walking in my direction. She is trailed by a girl wearing a sparkly headband and another girl with leather boots that I try to memorize so I can describe them to Fatima in a letter later because I think she would love them. My whole body rings with anticipation as I wait for Sarah's invitation, but it doesn't come. She and her friends walk right past me up to the counter where they each purchase a cookie. Wednesdays are the best, I hear Sarah say as she walks back to her table, triumphantly holding her cookie. I get up from the table where I have been sitting by myself and run to the bathroom, where I hide in a stall and sob and wonder if this lonely ache inside of me will ever go away. Chapter 8. Ben is telling me about his old apartment back in China. I used to live in the clouds, he says, in a very tall building that looked over all of Shanghai. I have never been to Ben's old house or even to China, but I can imagine it because of Ben's excellent English. Ben was in Mrs. Ravenswood's class last year, and I wonder if he's done this exercise before. I tell myself this to feel better about the fact that I have absolutely no idea what to say to describe my old home. I can see it, the tiny kitchen that was always filled with sunlight, the flat roof of our apartment building that was dotted with TV satellites, but my mind doesn't find the words in English to say what I want to say. It's okay, Ben says, giving me a warm smile. I think this exercise is really hard too. We switch partners, and Omar tells me about how hot the sun was and how he always woke up to the sound of his mother singing in the kitchen. Grace tells me that at her old home, she used to have to climb steps up to her bed. But here in America, she says, my bed is on the ground. She blinks and then says, Floor? Is floor better? Do you like it better? I ask. She gives me a little smile, not saying yes or no, only, it's different. Class is almost over, and Mrs. Ravenswood says she has a surprise for us. We all look at each other excitedly, thinking that she is going to let us watch a snippet of an American movie, a treat she sometimes allows us when we've worked hard in class. But instead, she brings out a box of cupcakes. She holds one up to show us how it is decorated. Like soccer balls, she says, to celebrate Omar. We learn that Omar has made the soccer team. We all clap for him. His accomplishment somehow, almost, feels like our own. I still don't understand the word soccer, Omar says as he devours his cupcake, icing smeared at the side of his mouth. Feet! He points to his feet. You play with your feet. Football! This makes all of us laugh. Chapter 9. One night, Uncle Mazen asks me if he can take me out to dinner. At first, I think Mama, Aunt Michelle, and Sarah will be invited too. But soon it is just me and him gliding down the street in the leather seats of his fancy car that rides so smoothly down the road that you forget you are even in a car. We go to a restaurant with dim lighting with servers who have very serious expressions, who bring out plates with baked potatoes and large pieces of meat. In America, we call this a steak, Uncle Mazen says, gesturing from his plate to mine. I can tell he wants me to be impressed by the hunk of meat sitting untouched on the plate. I cut into it and let out a cry. It's bleeding! I shriek. Uncle Mazen laughs and shakes his head. No, he says. It's perfect. In Syria, they overcook the meat. I look at the light pink of the meat, my stomach turning at his words, at the small puddle of blood on my plate. I pick at the baked potato instead. I have been learning that in America they add something called butter to everything. I may not be able to see the appeal of bleeding meat, but butter, I understand. Are you happy here? Uncle Mazen asks me as he finishes his bleeding steak. I can hear the worry in his voice. How much he wants me to say yes. I don't answer him. Instead, I say, what is an entree? It sounds like the word enter, but it